You know what's truly magnetic? Confidence that doesn't scream, it whispers. It's the quiet poise of a woman who's lived, learned, and let go of trying to impress anyone but herself. We spend so much time trying to be something for someone when the truth is, the most attractive thing you can be is fully, unapologetically you. There's a reason some women get better with age, not just wiser, but more desired, more admired. They don't chase, they attract. They know what they want. And even more powerfully, they know what they won't settle for. Today, I'm going to break down the habits, the real, almost invisible traits that make these women absolutely irresistible. And no, it's not about looks. It's about how they carry themselves, how they speak, how they make a man feel. Let's dive in. She sets boundaries without fear of losing him. This habit isn't about playing games or being cold. It's about clarity, confidence, and deep self-respect. An older woman who has stepped into her true self no longer sees love as something she must earn or chase. She's learnt, often the hard way, that losing herself in the name of pleasing someone else always comes at a high cost. And because of that, she no longer compromises on her emotional well-being just to keep someone around. Her boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They're not designed to push people away, but to protect what she values, including her time, energy, and peace. When a man interacts with a woman like this, he quickly senses that he can't walk all over her. There's a kind of silent strength in the way she communicates her limits. She doesn't need to shout or make threats. Her energy says it all. She may say no with grace, but that no is non-negotiable. She doesn't explain herself endlessly. She doesn't seek approval. She simply makes it known through words and actions what she will and won't tolerate. And the paradox? That level of self-possession is wildly attractive. Men, especially those who are emotionally mature themselves, respect women who have this clarity. It tells them, here is someone who values herself, someone who won't allow chaos into her life. It separates her from the crowd, because too many people, regardless of age, blur their lines, hoping to be liked. But this woman doesn't dilute herself to be digestible. She stays whole, she stays honest, and that is irresistible. Her boundaries also create a dynamic of mutual respect. She expects accountability. If he says he's going to do something, she expects him to follow through. If he's inconsistent, she doesn't chase him down for answers. She notices, she steps back, and she makes decisions based on patterns, not promises. This forces a man to level up, to meet her with the same emotional maturity she brings to the table. He either rises to the occasion or reveals he's not ready for her. Either way, she doesn't lose, because she refuses to settle. This type of woman isn't afraid of silence. She isn't scared of a man walking away if he can't handle her standards. In fact, she sees it as a blessing when people remove themselves from her life because they couldn't meet her at her level. She's learned that when someone respects your boundaries, they respect you. And when they don't, it's a gift. They've shown you they don't belong in your world. What makes this habit so powerful is that it's grounded in experience. She didn't always have this strength. She developed it after being burned, after staying too long in situations that drain her. She's done the emotional work. She's healed enough to know that love without self-respect is not love, it's sacrifice. And she's no longer available for relationships that require her to betray herself. This doesn't mean she's rigid or unkind. Quite the opposite. She's warm, open, and loving, but within the structure of self-respect. Her yes means something because she's willing to say no. Her time is valuable because she doesn't give it to everyone. Her attention feels special because it's intentional, not scattered. Every interaction with her feels like a privilege, not a right. This sense of emotional stability becomes magnetic. It gives her a mysterious kind of gravity. She's not reactive, she's responsive. She doesn't over-explain or justify. She simply moves in alignment with her values, and when she walks away, she does it with dignity, not as a punishment, but as a decision. That kind of quiet power draws in the right men and repels the wrong ones. She listens with presence, not with a plan to respond. In a world where so many conversations feel like battles to be heard, she offers something rare, true presence. When she listens, she's not just waiting for her turn to speak. She's not silently judging or planning a clever comeback. Her attention is undivided, and it shows. She makes the person speaking feel seen, heard, and understood, often without even saying much in return. This kind of listening isn't passive, it's powerful. It tells a man that she values not just his words, but his thoughts, his emotions, and his experiences. Older women who possess this habit have usually learned it through years of real connection and emotional growth. They understand that communication is not about winning. It's about understanding. They're not triggered by every disagreement. They don't rush to defend themselves. Instead, they pause, they breathe, they tune in to what's being said underneath the surface. Is there fear behind his frustration? Is there insecurity behind his silence? She picks up on the subtleties that others miss, not because she's trying to analyze him, but because she's truly present. This depth of listening creates safety. It invites openness. A man who speaks to her feels like he doesn't have to perform. He doesn't have to have all the answers. He can show his strength and his vulnerability, and neither will be judged. That safety builds trust. It builds intimacy. It creates a space where real connection can grow. Because she's not trying to fix him, change him, or impress him. She's just there, fully, in the moment. Her presence also commands respect. She doesn't interrupt, but she also doesn't tolerate being talked over. She holds space with quiet authority. She looks into his eyes when he speaks. She nods when she understands. She asks questions that go beyond the surface, and because she doesn't try to control the conversation, it flows naturally. It becomes a shared experience, not a performance. There's a calm energy around her that men find grounding. She isn't rushing to fill silences. She knows that pauses aren't awkward. They're space for reflection. She lets the moment breathe. This makes her presence feel different. In a world of overstimulation and noise, she's like a reset. A man doesn't just feel heard by her, he feels held, not physically, but emotionally, mentally. And that creates a bond that's difficult to explain, but deeply felt. Listening with presence is also an act of self-respect. She doesn't engage in conversations just to prove herself. She doesn't get pulled into emotional chaos or drama. She knows her energy is valuable, and she chooses where to invest it. If someone speaks from a place of ego or manipulation, she notices. If someone tries to dominate the space with arrogance or insecurity, she doesn't try to outshine them. She simply observes and decides whether it's worth continuing the exchange. Her silence, when she chooses it, speaks louder than words. Because she's so attuned to the present moment, she often hears what others miss. The hesitation in his voice, the excitement behind his words, the disappointment he's trying to hide. She's not reading his mind, she's just paying attention, deep, focused attention. And in doing so, she builds a connection that feels rare and real. This level of listening is a form of emotional generosity. It gives a man permission to lower his guard, to speak from his truth, not his performance, to be imperfect. And in return, he's drawn to her, not just because she's interesting, but because she makes him feel interesting. Not just heard, but valued. Not just seen, but deeply understood. She flirts with confidence, not desperation. There's a world of difference between trying to get attention and knowing you already have it. An older woman who flirts with confidence doesn't rely on gimmicks, forced laughs, or exaggerated gestures. Her energy speaks before she says a word. She knows how to make eye contact without looking away too quickly. She knows how to let her smile linger just long enough to be noticed. Her movements are intentional, her presence undeniable. She doesn't try to be someone else to get a man's attention. She owns exactly who she is, and that alone becomes magnetic. Her confidence doesn't come from arrogance, it comes from experience. She's been through enough to know that true attraction starts with how you feel about yourself. She's not flirting to get approval or to fill a void. She's flirting because she's playful, grounded, and knows how to enjoy the moment. Her energy is light but not superficial. She's not trying to prove anything. She's simply letting her natural charisma shine through. And that kind of authenticity is rare and unforgettable. When she enters a room, she doesn't need to dominate the space. Her presence is felt because she carries herself with certainty. She doesn't ask, "Am I good enough?" She knows she is. That certainty shows in the way she speaks, how she carries herself, and how she engages with others. When she flirts, it's subtle yet strong. She uses her words thoughtfully, makes the other person feel interesting, and knows how to hold their attention without begging for it. A woman like this is not afraid of being direct. If she likes someone, she'll let them know, but she does it with elegance. She doesn't chase, she invites. She creates space for connection without forcing it. If a man responds, great. If not, she moves on, without bitterness. Her self-worth is not tied to any one outcome. That's what makes her so powerful. She's emotionally independent, and men can sense it. Her flirting also has depth. It's not just about charm, it's about presence. She listens when someone talks. She makes them feel like the most important person in the room, not through flattery, but through focused attention. She knows how to tease without being mean, compliment without being fake, and express interest without losing her mystery. This balance of warmth and confidence creates a spark that draws people in naturally. There's also a grace in how she handles herself. She doesn't try to compete with younger women or mimic anyone else's style. She's embraced who she is, and that acceptance radiates through everything she does. She might wear less makeup, speak more softly, or move with more stillness, but it all works in her favor because it's real. And real is incredibly attractive. Men notice this kind of flirting because it feels safe and exciting at the same time. She's not trying to trap anyone or play emotional games. She's simply expressing interest with no strings attached. That freedom makes the interaction feel refreshing. There's no pressure, no hidden agenda, just a moment of shared chemistry. She's also not afraid to walk away. If the energy isn't right or the respect isn't mutual, she doesn't try to convince anyone of her value. She lets them go and keeps her energy intact. That kind of emotional strength is rare, and it makes the men who do connect with her feel lucky to be in her presence. Her flirtation isn't about showing skin, it's about showing soul. Her glance carries intention. Her voice carries calm. Her vibe carries a story. Every moment with her feels like it could lead to something deeper, not because she's pushing for it, but because she's fully aligned with herself. She knows her worth and doesn't negotiate it. There's a quiet certainty in the way she moves through the world. She's not seeking validation, not waiting for someone to choose her, and not shrinking herself to be more palatable. She's been through enough to understand that self-worth isn't something someone else gives you. It's something you claim, protect, and embody every single day. When she interacts with a man, that inner knowing becomes visible. It's not loud or boastful, but it's undeniable. She doesn't have to prove her value. She is the value. This kind of woman doesn't lower her standards just because someone shows interest. She doesn't get swept up in surface-level attention. She looks beyond the charm, beyond the words, and straight into the intention behind them. She's not impressed by shallow effort. She notices actions. She pays attention to consistency. And when she feels something is off, she doesn't stay silent just to avoid conflict. She addresses it calmly and directly because her peace matters more than temporary comfort. She understands the difference between compromise and self-betrayal. She's open-minded, yes, but not at the expense of her values. She's kind, but not a pushover. She gives, but not to people who take her for granted. And when she loves fully, but only if she feels emotionally safe and respected. This clarity in how she navigates relationships is something many men find incredibly attractive because it signals strength, self-respect, and emotional maturity. She doesn't entertain potential, she aligns with reality. She's not waiting for someone to become who she hopes they could be. She sees people for who they are and accepts or walks away accordingly. Her self-worth keeps her from chasing unavailable men, from begging for attention, or from staying in situations that make her feel small. She chooses herself, not in a selfish way, but in a deeply self-honoring way. When a man meets a woman like this, he senses the difference immediately. He realizes he's dealing with someone who knows what she brings to the table and won't settle for crumbs. This doesn't intimidate a man who is secure in himself. In fact, it inspires him. It challenges him to meet her at her level, because she isn't impressed by the usual tactics. She doesn't respond to manipulation, and she's immune to emotional games. Her time is precious, her presence is earned, and her standards are grounded in real experience. There's also a calmness in how she handles rejection. If something doesn't work out, she doesn't internalize it as a personal failure. She moves on with grace, knowing that her worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to see it. This resilience adds to her allure. She doesn't crumble under pressure. She doesn't seek closure from people who didn't value her. She provides her own closure, her own peace, and her own path forward. This woman isn't waiting to be chosen. She's doing the choosing. And when she chooses, it's because someone has shown up with real intention, real effort, and real emotional availability. She's not impressed by potential. She wants presence. She doesn't ask for perfection. She wants honesty, growth, and mutual respect because she already has a full life. She's not looking for someone to complete her. She's open to someone who complements her, supports her, and stands beside her, not above or beneath her. She doesn't brag about her strength, but it's obvious in everything she does. She speaks with clarity. She walks with purpose. She protects her energy, and she makes it clear through her choices that being with her is a privilege, not a right. That kind of unwavering self-worth can't be faked. It's earned through lived experience, deep reflection, and an unshakable decision to never abandon oneself again. She inspires, not controls. She leads with energy, not ego. There's a difference between a woman who tries to dominate a man and one who naturally influences him. She doesn't push, force, or manipulate. She doesn't operate from fear, needing to micromanage every detail of the relationship. Instead, she holds a frequency that elevates those around her. Her presence motivates without needing to demand. Men are drawn to her not because she pressures them to be better, but because they want to be better when they're around her. This kind of influence comes from emotional intelligence, not power plays. She knows that real leadership in a relationship comes through example, not instruction. She takes care of her body, her emotions, her environment, not to impress anyone, but because it's who she is. And in doing so, she sets a silent standard. She brings order, peace, and depth into a space simply by being in it. A man feels this. He feels inspired to rise, not because she told him to, but because her energy reflects what is possible. She doesn't control with ultimatums or manipulation. She doesn't resort to guilt, passive aggression, or emotional withdrawal. If she has a need, she communicates it clearly. If she sees a misalignment, she brings it up directly, but she always leaves room for the other person to meet her willingly. She knows the difference between inspiration and intimidation. She knows that love can't grow in the soil of control, and so she plants seeds with patience, presence, and authenticity. Her energy leads. It enters the room before she does. She doesn't have to say much to command attention. She simply embodies a level of emotional regulation, clarity, and grace that sets the tone. In conflict, she stays grounded. In uncertainty, she remains calm. This centeredness becomes an anchor, not just for herself, but for the man she's with. He feels more focused around her. He feels more capable. He starts to believe in parts of himself he may have forgotten, because she reflects back his highest self, not his flaws. She also knows when to pull back. If someone isn't responding to her energy, she doesn't double down or try harder. She simply observes and adjusts. She respects free will. She doesn't need to be the hero of someone else's story. Her desire to uplift never crosses into control, because she has no interest in carrying someone who isn't walking on their own. Her role isn't to fix or to rescue, but to embody what it looks like to be whole, and in doing so, remind others that they can be whole too. Men often mistake this type of woman as intimidating at first, until they realize it's not ego, it's alignment. She's not better than anyone, but she's deeply connected to herself, and that's rare. She doesn't need to be the loudest in the room. Her confidence is quiet, built on years of self-reflection and growth. When she speaks, people listen, not because she demands it, but because her words carry weight. When she loves, It's not transactional, it's expansive. She gives space and encouragement, not rules and expectations. She lives in a state of emotional generosity. She celebrates her partner's wins. She encourages his dreams. She listens with curiosity, not criticism. Her presence feels safe, not suffocating, and the man who experiences this starts to associate her with a higher version of himself. He feels more focused, more driven, more in touch with his purpose. Not because she told him who to be, but because she reminded him of who he already is.